Session is now called to order. As we stand, we're going to have our invocation. And I had a passage of scripture I wanted to read out, coming from Timothy here. And this is 1 Timothy 2:1 and 2. I exhort, therefore, that first of all supplication and prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, and especially for those who are in authority. And that is my scripture for today. Let's pray. Father, we praise you and thank you for an opportunity to come before your presence. Ask that you bless us to be a blessing to those we come in contact with. As you lay your hands upon us as a commission and as the mayor and as staff and those who are working together to make the city of Waycross a better place in which to thrive and survive, we pray now that your hand rest upon us as we make and deliberate over items and information that will be presented to us. We thank you and we praise you now. It is in Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we look to our city's clerk. Mr. Clerk, do we have any guests tonight?
None tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. With that, that means I can turn the remainder of our time together to our city manager, who will handle travel, training, and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I omitted some training and actually some traveling coming up for next week. We'll make sure that's on here for tomorrow's meeting during the actual session. That being said, we'll move into the planning and information session, starting with bids by the procurement officer, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners,
Ms. Jackson.
purchasing has one item before you this evening. It is for some surplus property. It is for toner cartridges for printers and copiers. We have approximately 85 that are no longer needed or obsolete. We have updated our copiers and printers over the years. So these toners that we have currently, the ones that we want to surplus, the ones that we have currently are no longer needed or cannot be used and do not fit the copiers and printers that we have. We are asking that these items be surplused so that we can sell them on govdeals.com.
Very good. Thank you so much for presenting that. I do know I'll open the floor for conversation around it if the commission would like to talk. And because we don't have quorum tonight, we'll just have more information being dispensed and distributed. So, Commissioner Bennett, did you have any questions
No,
about
sir.
toner? And Commissioner?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Next, Mr. Mayor, we're moving to the discussion items, and we will start with item number 1, infrastructure property setback requirements. This was a request by some of the commission to look at some of our business practices as far as residential and business and making them more attractive to potential investors. And that will be presented by Mr. Mark Hawkins.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
Mr. Hawkins.
Oh, my bad. Go back.
Is it back?
Yeah, let's start there. Mr. Mayor, my apologies. I'm going to start first, and then I'll bring Mr. Hawkins back up.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. And Mr. Mayor, as always, we are going to put the vision and the mission up here for those citizens who might not be aware of what our vision is and our mission. And again, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, we will be going over this again at the retreat on April 11th and 12th in case the commission wants to update the vision or change the mission. The priorities don't change. And again, these are just the buckets, the 4 big buckets: infrastructure, service, quality of life, city workforce. And these are the bins within those buckets. And we did add a new one on there for the city workforce as far as budgeting. That's a new addition. And again, Mr. Mayor, Commission, we'll have these up for review or revision at the retreat. Next, Mr. Mayor, is the city plan, the 10-year plan. We're at the midterm portion of this time, 2 to 4 years. Most of you are aware of those items within those 2 to 4 years. The so what here is the part down at the bottom, innovation, modernization, infrastructure, divesting, and investing. Those will be major things, the budget process that we start this month as well. Start the month of April, so tomorrow we start as well. And for those citizens who might be watching, we're gonna put these on the website. I have heard concerns, questions about this not being available. Although it's always in our slides, in the slides we posted, this is always be the first part of those slides. I'll make sure it's a standalone. This does connect to the comprehensive plan that the city developed about 4 years ago. Once again, all that will be conducted and discussed at the city retreat for modifications and revision, or just an update of where we are at the particular area in those plans. So, and again, this is a 2 to 4 year mark, and actually this is year 2 of the 10-year plan. Now, Mr. Mayor, we're moving to the discussion items. Start with infrastructure, property set requirements, and so what on here, we're trying to make changes to actually meet the future growth of the city of Waycross, as far as businesses and residents. And I pass it on to Mr. Mark Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. So in looking at specifically for our residential areas, our lot sizes, our lot requirements, just looking at a couple of different cities around, particularly Douglas, since it seems to be growing, Valdosta, places like that, just to see where we compare. So what I did was took a snapshot of, for our zoning, on the right-hand side, it's R50, which is the smallest zoning. Those lots say they have to be 50 by 100, 5,000 square feet. The smallest for Douglas, I forgot the name of it, I think it was RM. Their minimum lot size, their smallest residential lot size was their RM district. It required 9,000 square foot with a width of 70 feet. And then the city of Valdosta, theirs was a little more comparable. Their smallest, based on their residential lots, each one has a lot of residential lot or zoning districts like we do. Their smallest comparable was 6,000 square foot with a minimum lot of 60, excuse me. So as you can see, we allow some lots that are smaller. One of the big things that I did see, and it's highlighted, the minimum setback, their minimum setback is 7.5 feet on each side. The way ours is written, our minimum, well, it's 7.5 feet in Douglas, Valdosta's 8 foot, and then as the lots get bigger, those setbacks get bigger. So there's several variables, but staying comparable with our kind of comparable zoning district, our minimum side yard is 6 foot on one side and a total of 15. So what I would make a recommendation we do is just make both sides 6 foot. That would give them an additional, 3 foot to build. So that would cut back on any variances. The next thing you notice, the minimum square footage for houses in Douglas, it's 900 square feet. For Valdosta, it's 800 square feet. And then for us, it's 1,000. But we do have the caveat in our ordinance that says you take the average of the homes in that block. So if the homes in that block are 750 square feet, then you can go down to 750 square feet. Again, if you look at City of Valdosta, City of Douglas, when you get in our bigger lots, which would get more like our R90 or our single family residence, those homes, I think Valdosta's, their minimum size and some of theirs were 3,000 square foot for a home minimum size. So I think the way we have our language with the minimum of 1,000, but then you base it on the average of the homes in the area or in that same block, kind of puts it on the same with these other, the 800 and 900 square foot. So what I would recommend is changing just the setbacks on the side yard so that it's the same for both sides, not a 6 on one side and then a total of both, if that makes sense. Looking at some of the front yard setbacks, some of them did reduce it, but it was based on certain areas. The biggest part where they reduced was in the rear yard. Our rear yard says 25 feet. Some of it, there's one zoning that requires 30 feet. Most in Douglas was a 15-foot rear set, a 15-foot setback in the rear yard. So it just depends if you want them to have a bigger front yard, a smaller front yard, on which way you go that way. But definitely on the sides, just to make it easier, just make it the same, that it's a 6 foot or 9 foot or whatever per that zoning district on both sides, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. So are
And
you
any
asking-
questions?
Yeah, okay. So, Commission, did you have any questions, Mark?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
So in a nutshell, the let's say for instance we have existing homes in those lower income neighborhoods. If I wanted to add on towards the front, if it's not a safety hazard, would it be possible if I fall just outside of those limits?
So there's always, and all the cities have the same thing, you can seek a variance. So they can come to a variance and apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get a variance to encroach on that setback. There's standards that they have to meet, and then the board would hear that and they would make that recommendation. Or we could do, what some cities have done is they still have the variance, but then they also have an administrative variance. So if it's 10% less than, 10% or less of an encroachment, then that can be handled in-house and not have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So if your front setback is 30 feet and you're only needing 3 foot of, if you're only going to encroach 3 foot, then that can be handled in-house. If you're going 4 foot or more, then it would go through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay. So if there's a vacant lot and my plans are just outside of that limit, can I go up
Yes, sir.
and fall within
Yeah,
the
you
limit?
can always do 2 stories. So it's just measured to the front walls. And then that was the other thing. So a lot of these, their setbacks, our setbacks are from the property line to the wall of the structure. When you start looking at Valdosta and Douglas, it's any part of that house. So if you have a back deck or a side deck, they're including that in those setbacks, whereas we don't. We just count to the wall.
Okay.
So if you're within that, you can always go up and build a second story, yes, sir.
So what about firewalls in between the two? Well, not the existing
Well,
structure,
if it's a
but
single family residence, you wouldn't need firewall. So, is that what you were asking?
yeah, because if I build too close to an existing home, and that home does not have a firewall, if I fall within those guidelines, safety purposes.
So, yes, sir, and that's why I would say the minimum in our R50 is 6 foot. Not go any less than that, because the building code says once your buildings get within 5 foot of each other, you have to have firewalls on both of them. So if you got 6 foot, you got 12 foot there between the 2 buildings. Firewalls aren't needed, plus you have enough room for 2 firemen and a hose to get between the 2 structures.
I know that.
And if you, like I said, if you look, City of Douglas requires 7.5 feet from the property line, so those buildings are 15 foot apart. Valdosta, they're 16 foot apart.
Okay.
So
So how soon can we get this done? Because this has been going on since 2015, since I left.
we can take this to the planning commission, and because it's in the zoning, we'll take it to the planning commission, get their recommendation, and bring it here for public hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr.
So is
Mayor.
it just the side yards that in the residential districts to do that, or shrink up the back, or?
I'm not too familiar with businesses other than mine, so I can't speak on that.
Right. Yeah, and I think, and like I was telling Mr. Rayford, we don't seem to have a lot of that, because if we were getting variances monthly for setbacks, then you would say that we would have a problem, but we're not getting enough, we're not getting any variances on setbacks except for 1 or 2 every other year or something. So I think the setbacks are fine, but I think doing this would actually give them a little more room as well.
And Commissioner, 2 points. So this will be a topic retreat. At the retreat, we're going to talk about this in detail. As Ms. Hawkins mentioned, I'm not sure if the again, promotion to the citizens to know certain things about the variance, because I think sometimes they just build some, not out of spite, but not knowing. You know, like I said, even as written right now, we have a lot of flexibility in our policies in the code. But unfortunately, a lot of times, you know, unfortunately, citizens don't take the time to just come check about, you know, the building codes and permits, and that's been a struggle since I've been here. So on top of this, we want to do a better job promoting any changes that we make.
Yeah.
As you mentioned in the commission body itself, we do want to be more applicable to our sister cities. At the same time, we got to be careful on safety wise. But you know, I'm going to talk about this in the next discussion item. But we have almost 400 properties. If you count abandoned homes and vacant lots, depending on how the sizes, you know, it could be more than that. So that's a lot of areas there that could be for development. And even with that, go back to the 1,000 square foot requirement. That's the issue too, because a lot of those areas, they're not next to smaller homes for that average. They're next to big homes, so we can't even get smaller. So that would be something that we would need to change. And I think our citizens, I hope that they're kind of understanding how the world is going with smaller homes, definitely for energy purposes. So that's something will have to be part of the discussion as well. But I think if we make some of these modifications, Mr. Hawkins has mentioned, it will allow potential investors to come in and do more building on the single lots for the single homes.
Yeah.
Right now, we're only attracting the apartment complexes because of some of these setback rules, as you asked about a few meetings ago.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good job.
Now, I want to ask a question before you move away from this, and that question really is around the idea of those modifications that you mentioned. Who would be in charge of making those modifications? Would that be city, or would that be planning and zoning?
So,
Go ahead.
so I'll take the recommendations of what I presented, making both sides the same instead of a 6 and 15, or depending on the lots there. I'll take those to the planning commission. They'll make a recommendation, and then y'all will have final approval on that.
Okay.
So it will be the
This
city.
commission will have final approval.
The reason I bring that in is because I've served on that board before. So
Yes.
one of the things that I've remembered, if we were to change anything, it had to be changed there first, but then it had to come through the city or the county, depending upon
Right.
which entity was in charge. And then afterwards, they would make a decision based on what the recommendation from the commission would be.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a recommending body, and since it's the zoning ordinance, it has to go through them. If it was just the regular city ordinance, it would just come straight here.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. All right. And once again, Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, this will be on the agenda. I think we have the opportunity to really revise all that and make it work for the citizens. And again, to the citizens who might be watching, please be involved with this process. Like I said, we have flexibility now, so come ask your questions before, and you know that way we can have those resolutions prior to making mistakes and force us to do other things after the fact. Next, Mr. Mayor, we're moving to, and this is the part of the, it says property code violation mitigation, and this is about strengthening our code enforcement procedures. And I'm gonna go to the numbers here. So right now, we have currently about 400 cases pending. This is for various high grass, blight, trash, abandoned cars, all those things. And this is in various stages. So you might have initial cases, 0 to 30 days, mid cases, then over 90-day cases. I'm bringing it to the commission right now because we will talk about this at the retreat. The one thing that we don't have is a true forcing function for corrections. As you can see, the average case resolution time is about 18 months. And 18 months is like, from getting the call or doing route checking, coming to the not abandoned property, coming to the overgrown grass, then talk to the residents, then give them the letter. And then by the time it goes to court, and these cases have been kind of pushed to the back in comparison to the abandoned houses because of the safety factor, but they're still out there. So, and once it makes it to the judge a lot of times gives them extra time as well, prior to the penalty phase of these things. So that is not working under my assessment right now, and I just want to relook at this process, because we got to start holding people accountable a little bit early on in the process. This may be a thing about raising the fees drastically, to push compliance, because right now it's not working, and also speaking to the judge about this, about how he views these types of events. Our longest ongoing case is up to 48 months, and that goes back to trying to find the proper property owner and all these things, other higher priorities, and sometimes we got a blight situation, and then we're trying to knock down a drug home. We got people using drugs and stuff. It pushes back further. So our code team, Mr. Hawkins' team, they work real hard about these cases, but it is a litigation process in the court system that takes a while, plus the other things going on as well. But I think we got to get on the front side of this and just increase the fines and a few other things that Mr. Hawkins is going to present during the retreat. Well, I present during the retreat, but we'll both be tag teaming this about making the strength of our code enforcement officers a little bit stronger, if that makes sense. They've also, Mr. Hawkins has brought me some ideas about changing how they are set up, as well as them. They've done some training and looked at other cities where they do some things differently. So we're going to look at those models and maybe kind of incorporate that into our day-to-day stuff. But I think this is very important. Another situation here, it says the certified letter costs about $10. Doesn't seem that much, but if you can times that, times 400 cases, times 4 times a year, times going to court, it just keep adding up. I know Mr. Hawkins was preaching that before I got here about getting rid of the certified letter. I think we talked about that because it costs so much. And again, it's not pushing anybody as far as compliancy, so there are other ways to do this without spending this constant money on these letters. So we're going to look at all means possible during the retreat, but I want to go ahead and bring it to the commission now so you can kind of start thinking about that prior to the retreat. And it will require a charter and process change, so it's home rule, so it's not like we got to take it to legislation. But I think this is one of the areas when I'm talking about divesting and investing, that we got to divest from the old system and invest in a better system. For one, to make sure all those citizens who are cutting their grass and doing the right way by the trash and the big items and all that stuff, to get their backs, and then two, hold others to compliance that don't want to be in compliance, and then three, help us identify those that need help in some cases. So, but that's the 5 main bullets there, Mr. Mayor, Commission. And again, not a decision required tonight, but I want to bring it to your attention so when we have the retreat, you can be thinking about how we want to look at changing these policies with the code. And I apologize if any questions.
I do have a few.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
But the first thing that's crossing me is I know that our city attorney, you've had to deal with these cases.
Yes.
What seems to be a consistent issue that you're encountering when you bring these cases before judge?
Well, a lot of times, just finding out who the owners are. We start with with doing the title searches, and as long as there are no heirs property situations, we pretty much can find who the owners are. But when it's heirs property, then that takes a little longer because you have to identify who the heirs are. You have to go to probate court to see if anything has been filed, and if so, then you have to notify 2 or 3 heirs or 15 or 20 heirs to make sure that anybody who is connected to the property gets notice. So that slows it down a little bit.
I found that, we've had people come into the office and they're frustrated with one of the heirs concerning property, and they want us to go onto that property. What is a problem with, and I know the answer, but I want to kind of let you say what to those who are listening. What seems to be a major issue that may arise out of multiple people having these properties and say, for instance, it's overgrown? What seems to be a major issue here?
Well, with overgrown vegetation, we actually can handle those without taking them to court. For the unsafe building properties, we have to take those to court because we have to get an order to demolish them. And we also can get orders from the court regarding overgrown vegetation as well. But the code does have a procedure where the city can send out, again, certified letters to the property owners, notifying them that they are in violation of the code because of the overgrown vegetation, and give them so many days to abate it I think it's usually 10 or 15 days. If they don't abate it within that period of time, then they are informed that city staff will go upon the property and abate the nuisance, cut the grass, cut the hedges, whatever the overgrown vegetation is, and then put a lien against the property for the cost of those services. Now, before that happens, before the city actually goes onto the property, the property owner is also advised that they have the right to file an appeal. I believe it's with the city manager as opposed to the city clerk, and have the city manager review what the city proposes to do before actually going upon the property. But this is all through an administrative proceeding, which can be handled more quickly than having to go to court.
Can I chime in there, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And you can see problematic how this can be, because with the fee being so low, they more likely they will let us come on there and cut it. And then we already in a situation we can barely maintain our own right of ways, parks, and everything we cut as is. And then we this is why I made the mention of conserving our fuel, and we don't want to get in the habit of doing this. That's part of the solution, but I really think we got to change even that process, because as I've learned my 2 years, nobody's going to do it. And then we do take them to court, pay the small fine, or they might cut it that particular day, and then we go another year on the same stuff. So although we're losing money, resources, and fuel, we're also losing time with our employees having to keep going back and forth with this. I think an extremely high fine will put an end to this right now. I'm not sure what the whole fine is right now. What's the fine for? Yeah, it's 800, but like many things here in the city, we are very low when it comes to fines compared to other cities. And during the retreat, we'll put that up on so you can see it face to face, how far we are behind. I would definitely compare us to a Douglas, because their fines are way more steep for situations like this. And I think it's something we have got to look at. I know the other argument behind this will be some of our citizens don't have the money to do certain things. That's always an argument. And in those situations, it'll be case by case. We'll figure it out. But we can't have people being non-compliant for years and decades in some cases. So we just got to do better at this. And some of this is process changing and priorities. Like I said, we've made a focus right now on abandoned properties, more for safety and because of gangs and drugs. But we have a lot of leeway on those homes. So it's time to move in to this direction as well. So I don't want to make it just about the overgrown vegetation, because there's other situations too we need to kind of fix. But I just want to bring it to your attention because this is one of those areas that is costing us money, and you don't even realize it until the end of the year, how much money we spent on certain things. And then to the commission, like I said, we really want to focus our resources and our capacity and our capabilities on the city-owned stuff, the parks and the right-of-ways and all those things, and the canals that we have to keep maintaining, for operational use and for citizen use. So, and I'll pause there, Ms. Manuel. You had another question, so I'll pause there.
I did, and it was in relationship to the code, and we were talking about particular codes and then code enforcement and then code cases. The concern I had, especially if you're bringing it before the commission as a retreat item, is will we have a list of potential ways of addressing this? Because I know that sitting in the seat and looking at the events and activities that's been going on, because we've been seeing this. I know Allie sends us out a list of those things weekly. One of my concerns would be, how would we list them first, and then how would we prioritize them as what we need to do as far as codes are concerned?
So I'm going to prioritize them for you, Mr. Mayor, just on, as I said before, aesthetics versus operational. We got to start looking at things that way. In some cases, we'll never be able to cut everything here in the city of Waycross. It's just too, the area, which was initially built for 50, 60,000 people, square footage wise. Now we're talking about 13,000 people. For the staff we have, is just too small. But I will prioritize them on locations, because some areas, where the overgrowth presents a danger to drivers. You can't see around the corner. It's a lot of those situations. Anything close to the canal, certain animals need both water and shelter to survive and thrive, and they're not the friendliest of animals. So those situations will be a little bit different. So we will prioritize it that way. And then you got overgrowth, you got blight. It's different scenarios as well. And of course, I mentioned abandoned houses and homes. So the homes will always take priority pretty much first. And then probably more like, when I say blight, I'm talking about all those, people with 10 cars in the yard and 4 broken down sheds and things like that. And then we get to the overgrowth, which will be probably the last priority. But we'll have that kind of set up, and then we'll have recommendations on raising which fines. And then some of the processes, city attorney did mention about the court procedures. I do want to talk about that in detail, about speeding that up. Those title searches can take a long time, and although city attorney's been doing a great job, that takes a lot, and we're really behind already because the amount of homes that we already had, and then COVID hit, got pushed back even further with the amount of times that you can appear before court. So that's another area we got to look at too. I'm gonna ask the judges, they have got to pick up court times. I just had to say that out loud. So, and that's a recommendation will be on there as well.
And Mr. Mayor, just in terms of the tools in the toolbox, we have the nuisance abatement statute, which we use to take cases to court with. We have the overgrown vegetation ordinance, which can be handled administratively. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a few years ago, the city did adopt the property maintenance ordinance, where you can tax the property owner at a higher rate if they have properties that have overgrown vegetation and junk. I think Mr. Curry actually prepared that ordinance, and I think I saw where it was actually adopted. So
It
that's,
was.
that's
And that's
something
been
we're
since I've been sitting here, because if I'm not mistaken, it was District 2, Commissioner 3 at that time was the person who brought it up. It was a
Yes.
blight tax.
a blight tax.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so we voted on that maybe 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it passed unanimously.
That's another tool that we're not using, I don't think.
Yeah. But if Ms. Mayor, that's another situation where once we start that, our situation here with our citizens,
I do understand.
that can be really adverse.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just want to look at something that's really applicable, that can really be, pushed without putting an additional burden on the workforce.
Understood.
Because all those, and I'm not trying to counter what the city attorney said, because those are tools. But I want to keep pushing just our code team out here, and we can't really have no teeth behind a lot of our actions. So, but that'll be on the agenda, and I'm confident that we can craft something that's doable, like really doable. And then I will ask the citizens to understand that, because as they call and say, look at these things, I hope they can review the processes themselves, understand, even with the process, it does take some time. And again, though, I think we do gotta make things a little more, the fees a little higher just to push everything forward to begin with. Did you have any other questions, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner?
I'll open the floor for commission. Did you have a question? No?
Oh, sir, I do not.
Okay. I gather that I'm the only person going to talk about this part, but it just sounds like to me just a concern I have when I hear, because I know if they're not paying on this level,
Yes.
to increase the fine doesn't mean they're going to do any more. It just means that we'll have more on the book, but less as far as numbers, but less response because they're not responding now.
But-
and I think that was my concern.
Oh, that's true. I guess on the fine piece, Mr. Mayor, sometimes they will just pay the fine and do nothing. So that's a lot of cases too. That's 50% of the time. It's just, so I think by forcing them to pay a higher fine, that might make them, I just clean it up versus, so. But we'll dig into that at
Okay,
the retreat,
understood.
and then we'll come out the retreat with a better plan of action for everyone. And then we'll brief it a couple times to make sure everybody's understanding what's about to happen. And then we'll probably go live at the beginning of the next budget year. All right, Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
next we move on to the utilities rate increases. I've mentioned this a few times before, but I want to go ahead and mention it one more time prior to us going into the city retreat. So you see there, utilities increases and the system development charge. All these actions are to account for inflation, expenses, increased expenses, and then revenue increases. As y'all know this, Mr. Mayor, I put this up for the public. Most of our systems are, was in the 60s and 70s, 60 years old. So we're constantly battling the age situation now. And then in 2020, ESG did come up with a capital gains plan for the water and wastewater systems, and this all kind of tied together. That's why I'm mentioning this. And then again, it says not capacity building, just rehabbing existing systems. So, but I'll get to that part later on in the slides. So again, you remember 2020, it was estimated almost $20 million to rehab all our water and sewer parts, some things at the plant. That's about 25 million now, with inflation and cost adjustments. So just make sure everybody understands that. We've talked about this, about our commercial residents using more water and paying less, and the need to invert that back the way it should be, where the residential pay less versus commercial. So to do that modification, that's about that itself is about a 5% adjustment, and I mentioned that before, and E&G has mentioned before as well. So they'll make that adjustment. This is not including the 3% proposed raise to the rates. This is just the adjustments to get them back to the right conversion. That makes sense. Okay, and once we did that, we were then moving to the rates adjustments. And before, a lot of times we just had the averages on here. This is the actual rate increase. It would be at 3% for commercial rate increases. You can see that. I'm talking 3 years. And you see in reality, and we only went up to our 8 meter size 8-inch meters. We have a few bigger than that, but most of our larger corporations are going to be at the 8 meters size. It's not asking for a whole lot. They won't go up a whole lot at 3%, but it will do compound interest over time, give us that necessary money we need for those grants. We need that matching money. This will really help us out. So. But I want everybody to see that, and you'll get this in detail at the city retreat. But this is the actual 3% increase built in. Those are the actual numbers.
Our Commissioner Nelson made mention of this in our, I think it was a vote we were trying to get,
Yes.
so we could pass it over into
Yeah.
making a resolution. And I think he made mention that we wanted to have more financial push to the corporations as
Yes.
opposed to the residential. So that
Yes.
was a concern. And I understand what you're saying, because I think it was a 3% on the residential and 7% on the.
That's what we told.
Correct.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
And once again, these are the numbers. I'm gonna move up to the and these proposed commercial sewer rate adjustments. Now sewer is a little more expensive for commercial sides. It's a little different setup, but even that, you're talking like, I don't want to minimize any funding, but it's not like it's for the bank, break some banks with any type of money.
For those who are looking at this, I'm sure that gray is difficult to
Yeah, I
read.
just saw
It
Ms.
is, I'm
Smith. So,
squinting.
yeah, what we'll do, we'll update this slide and push it back out. I didn't see that one. I missed that one slide. And this will be the proposed residential water and sewer rates. And you see that over 3 years, we're talking $2, and we're talking maybe $3.50 over 3 years. Now we can be more aggressive. And one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this, once we balance the commercial sides, these numbers will actually decrease anyway, as far as the residential size. So over time, they would go down. I mean, once we get the right size balance between the commercial usage and the residential usage. So right now we off balance, so that's why it kind of looks the way it looks. But over time, it will go down.
And you're looking at about what space of time will it start?
So if we
diminishing?
if we pass this and get the next budget cycle in the July rates, I'm talking about 3 years from that point. So 3 years of doing this, you're talking about most customers, you paying about $2 in the end, $2 more than you were paying $2.25. So, and again, this is not geared for us to generate a whole bunch of money. This is allowing us to get some matching money, so we can have that matching requirement for all those grants. And then with that grant money, we can reapply that to fix some of our water and sewer utilities issues. So now, and we're gonna have 3 different studies at the retreat. You remember that y'all requested, the commission requested one from GMA, the city engineers did one, and I found an older study done when Ms. Miller was here as the city manager. She had another corporation do one. And I'm bringing that into fold because they all paint a similar picture. Picture meaning that we should raise our rates a lot more to be compared with other cities. We're going to use Douglas. We had Douglas up there early on about how their model works. Their rates go up every year with the CPI. So definitely higher than ours. But I do want to get us to the point that we have a CPI model as well. And when you have to connect to the CPI, it might go down depending what the CPI model is that year. So that's always a factor too. But at least it stays in line with inflation consistently. So These are the residential sewer rates, Mr. Mayor. Commission. So that's really it on that part, Mr. Mayor. And once again, we will go into detail on these numbers, but I did go back and make sure I put that 3% in there because the first 2 times we briefed this, it was on average. This is the actual 3% to those bills and those size meters. So, and I'll pause there before I move on, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner.
And you said this was 2% or 3%?
3%, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Now, like I say, this 3% is probably going to net us anywhere between $300,000 to $500,000 a year in revenue. And like I said, that would then turn into money we use for matching for grants.
Mhm.
So, and of course, all that money has to go back in the water and sewer. It can't go in the other account. But that would definitely help us out with all these issues we have with our water and sewer lines right now. Right now, it's very difficult for me to, for the city, to match a lot of these grants because we just don't have the extra revenue.
Yeah.
So I hope citizens, everything that we get from them, it goes right back into the system to make their lives better. And I'll cover some other ways we're gonna enhance their water and sewer on the next couple of slides. Any further questions on this rate, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner?
Commissioner Bennett,
No, sir.
Commissioner Nelson.
You did my analysis
Oh.
really well. So, hey, I see the thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, Mr. Mayor, and this is we was talking about, the city engineer had briefed this a few times before. This is in reference to taking that meter across the city county lines with Blackshear, and this is that system development charge I've been talking about. And it's just saying what it is. I mean, we discussed it before. The big thing on here, I'm hoping that all citizens can understand. You have to put it back in expansion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do current lines if that makes sense. But expansion means we could expand anywhere. So you could expand into older systems. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this is kind of critical that we take an opportunity to utilize this. This method of increasing not increasing, but another way of getting revenue to address our water and sewer needs. So, and of course, it's future expansion. So if we had any new development, you can go that route too. That would be another way for us when we talked about incentivizing businesses to come here. This would kind of be, I can call it free chicken, but it would be another way for us to put monies towards that development. But the main thing is, like I say, once we just bring this extra funding in, we could expand to new systems, not necessarily new pipes, if that makes sense. And here, Mr. Mayor, this is kind of what the charge would be by meter size. Now, this isn't actually the gallon usage because we don't know all the gallon usage. I think this is kind of prorated, and the city engineers did this. I can't talk too much into it, but it's kind of like prorated. I want to say he said 350 gallon usage, but I'm not sure. I have to check back on this. But at the retreat, the city engineer will brief this to you in detail. So, because a lot of this we won't really know the actual benefit until we know the actual gallon usage. So, I kind of had to model this. We did know about 3 to 4 businesses that wanted to go on the Blackshear side, and car wash is going to use a lot of water. Gas station is going to use a lot of water. So I kind of modeled this behind just on averages. But like I say, this ain't the real numbers until we get the actual meter sizes they're going to be using on their end and the amount of water they're going to be requiring. But I did want to show you a snapshot of how this could work. So in reality, 1/8-inch meter, that's about $337,000 a year, which varies. So again, that could really help us out with our systems. So just bring it to the Commission's attention, and once again, this will be a home rule adjustment we could make. It will not require legislative action. And do we have any questions on that, Mr. Mayor?
Just a comment, and that comment is based on the economic development
Yes.
and knowing that President Rubenbauer probably will come to us regarding things, and I know that we don't have some of the ways of drawing people in to some of these events. But what we're just trying to do is make sure, because I hear people talking about abatements and various other things.
Yeah.
And I know in the finance, the commissioners have to take the course like I do, along with our director of finance, that municipal finance 1 and 2.
Yes.
And these are conversations we're having
Yes.
regarding the meter size, the amounts of funding that have to go to make these things work. And if this is going to come before us, I'm sure in the retreat, this is a retreat item.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Mayor, and these ain't just conversations here in City of Wade Cross. It's everywhere.
I'm very
and-
much aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know this. So we definitely got to get on board and start being more creative with our revenue, generating capabilities, regardless of what they are. And we've been, unfortunately, talking about it for some time. I fully understand, and we talk about this personally, Mr. Mayor, that the commission has a lot of important decisions they have to make, and they don't want to make a decision that might be adverse later on for the city of Wade Cross. So, but this model has worked in other cities. The one thing we do have is the capacity. That's the one thing about Wade Cross. We do have the water capacity to go both sides of the city. So, I just think it's time to take care of that. Expansion 2 could also mean new wells, and we do need new wells as well. So it's a lot of ways to make this work for the city of Wade Cross. I know the big thing will be to make the citizens understand this. I know it's going to be a challenge,
Yes.
and I'm working with Director Simmons on messaging, so we can get it down to everybody's level of understanding and clarity. So we've been doing some pilots with certain groups of citizens just to ask them how y'all interpret this, and we're getting good feedback. So I will have to do the so what and the why, and make that more universal to everybody. And I think we could talk about that at the retreat, to what that really says. And once we establish that, I think the citizens will buy in when they really see that, hey, this is going to impact the city in so much positive ways, and then save time from what we got going on right now. If any questions with me, I'll move on to the next area.
No question, just a comment. And that is, I know working meters are going to be the main thing
Here we go.
when it comes down to capacity. And then the next part is the proper reading of those meters and the amounts of funding that's going to be requested of the citizenry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for the lead in, Mr. Mayor. So this is the meter pilot update that we're moving into as well. And of course, it's update current status and future requirements for our inoperable meters. And I try to keep this simple because I know I've been putting up all these charts and figures and phases, and I know it's been confusing. So we try to keep it as simple as possible, definitely for the general public to look at. And I hope everybody can understand these bullets. If you can't understand this, please let us know, and we'll try to explain it again the best we can. So right now we're roughly about 1,700 meters that are currently not working. This number flex, it flexes up and down every day. Meter replacement is about $156 per meter. That's just the meter itself. That's not the labor and everything else that comes with it. But I want to keep this as simple as possible. Transmitter replacement, that's about $170 per transmitter. And then it's estimated total equipment cost. If you remember, Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, I gave you 3 scenarios. One, if we just bought all the meters alone, and then did some financing with Georgia Power's network. Or 2, we built our own network and did all that, and then did get the upgraded transmitters and all that. So that's that cost of us just the I guess I'm gonna call it the wine budget. Now, the beer budget is a little cheaper. It'd be about $350,000, and that's us financing some of these areas, which we'll talk about the retreat. I'm kind of against right now. And then a few other things that we would omit, purchase later on down the road. I'm not gonna put the finance director on the spot right now, but we're gonna talk about this $500,000 because I think we got to figure this one out sooner than later. I'm more comfortable go ahead and buying that cost up front because every time we push it off, it just increases. It just increases. And then only other savings down there, if I just jumped on Georgia Power's backbone, is we probably would just pay them a monthly usage fee, be on there versus and that's about $1,600 a month. It's actually more than that because that's just for those 1,700 meters. But if we replace all 5,000 meters, then it will be a little bit more. But if there's one way to say this expense is worth it, it's gonna be worth it. So if we fix all the meters, then we'll get the right readings, and then that's gonna bring in more revenue too. It'll create less headaches and problems for our citizens and our engineering partners, and our public works, and our utilities management, the finance director, because we all keep dealing with these meters. That's thinking about, I would say 4% of our work week is dealing with these meters in some form of capacity. So this money will be well spent. I mean, when I go back to divesting and investing, this is the main thing I'm talking about. It's getting away from a unforced decision some years ago when we bought those meters, and getting back to the right side of fixing everything. And then eventually, over time, once we get everything in place, everything would catch up with itself, and it would, our citizens would benefit long term by doing this. So, but I am going to give you the options to do your wine budget or do your beer budget when the time comes. But we'll give you all the data you need to make that decision at the retreat. And then we'll come out of the retreat, I think that next week, hopefully we can take a vote then. So we'll come out of the retreat that Saturday. That Monday needs to be on the agenda. We'll vote on it Tuesday. It'll go in place July 1st. So, but that gives the commission time right now to talk to their residents and their constituents about what possibly might be going on. And then the retreat is wide open to citizens as well. They can come watch when we talk about that. And, I briefed this many times before. I think, like I said, if there's any other time to divest from a failed, from an unforced decision, unforced error, it's right now, and just move forward with something new. And the pilot itself, we've had it running about 6 months. And those new meters, we have had no problems with them. And plus with our new IT systems, where you get notification if you got leaks. If you sign up for it, you email you got a leak in your house, or using 50 more gallons this week than you did last week. So it's gonna really benefit citizens. And I pause there, Mr. Mayor, on this slide if you have any questions.
Commissioner, did you have any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner?
I'll talk with them later about it.
Okay. We're good.
And once again, this will be on the agenda for the retreat, Mr. Mayor. Next, Mr. Mayor, moving to the city services zone concept update. You already have this in your working books, and y'all get this on email in the report, but I want to just kind of highlight it for those who might not get it or have a chance to read it. A few months ago, well, not a few months ago, actually a year ago, when the previous public works director, we sat down because, summer months, we lose a lot of people. Once that temperature gets about 110 degrees, they start dropping off, or they don't come to work, and we get behind on a lot of cut areas. And we would have teams down the east, and we try to do it by districts, all 5 districts. Have a lawnmower here, a push mower here, and a weed eat team here, and they all trying to cut their areas, and it was not working. So what we did, we came up with the zone concept, and we got 4 zones there, and they comprise, each zone got at least 2 districts in there. And like zone 1, this kind of rotates, but like zone 1 is a Monday. And then we got there with all our capacity, all lawnmowers, all the weed eaters, mowers, everybody, and they cut that area. The parks, everything in that area, they cut it that day. And then they come on zone 2 the next day, and they cut all those areas. And then zone 3 and zone 4. So you're thinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we do all that. Friday is an off day, but not off in the sense of day off. It's a maintenance day for equipment, and it's a work from home day for some of the employees, as long as all their routes are cut Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If it rains, like it's raining right now for some reason, then Friday becomes a makeup day. And if you look at that map, Mr. Mayor, you see all the area that's in blue. That's kind of all the city-owned properties and all that stuff. If you look closely, the parks is in I think I want to say green, and then you got the canals in there. That's the lines. Those are greens. So it kind of displays everything that we handle for those days in those zones. So anytime when we're doing when you get the city report that y'all get daily and bi-weekly reports, and I think we post that daily for citizens, it might say Zone 1 North. So that means north side of town, Zone 1. And I want to make this clear to everybody. So it might be certain days that you might not see anybody cutting hedges in your district. That's because you might be not on that zone day, you know. It's the same way that our code departments work. They work in zones as well. We have 4 code enforcement officers and then 1 supervisor. So it's the same concept. They each hit a area each day, and then the supervisor kind of spot checks everybody. And this allows us to save on fuel as well, because we are using less fuel because we're not spread out across town. We move to a certain area that day, so we're not just rotating around town trying to get everything done. And we've already saved a lot of fuel. And then once again, during the budget discussions, fuel, overtime, and health insurance are our biggest expenses. So I'm trying to really cut down those areas. And this is a simple cut down here, because we know when the storms come this summer, when we use the extra fuel too, we'll be better prepared. So I just want to show y'all this, Mr. Mayor, Commission, because I know we have a lot of questions on this, on how we do maintenance for the city. This is how we do maintenance for the city. Now, this does not include ESG and water leaks. Now, they do jump around because they have to. But I am developing a plan for utilities where we start. We're trying to get the data on this. We're going to start in one area and work our way towards the river. That's all we can do right now because everything is breaking, so it doesn't matter where we start at, how we fix it. We just got to start somewhere and have a methodical plan down the road. So, but everything else, as far as public works, is in one of these zones daily. And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, if any questions. I know y'all get this and y'all
Yes,
seen this
sir.
already, but I want to make sure that some of our citizens that might not know how we operate. If you look at the daily report, you see on there where it says, like I said, Tractor Moore Zone 2. You can see that real time, and then you can better understand how we manage our properties during the work week.
Any questions?
No, I just want to give kudos. Shouts out to city manager. He does a great job of sending out info, emails and stuff. And this is familiar because in the private military. I understand, I understand. I tell my constituents, it may not be this week, but it's coming around.
Yes.
And then they go out there and see it rotating around. And other commissioners will have to understand that and stop being so territorial.
Yeah.
We're one city.
Yeah, and this way, Commissioner, like it takes that away from it. Because we were doing the 5 districts. If you missed a park or something, and stuff still happens. Don't get me wrong. During the summer months, people gonna call in, and they're gonna call in if it's already 120 degrees at 8 o'clock. Now we do try to cut early, they do have the flexibility to come in at 6 and go through lunchtime. So that's one thing that we are doing as well. But this way, it's not like we just picking a district. We hitting at least 2 districts every day. So that's a good thing about that. And I'm proud of the team. They bought into this. It took a little bit, but they bought into this. And like I say, everybody's out there in the one area cutting hard because they want to get everything done by Thursday. So they can kind of put the equipment in the shed and let it cool down. So
Great job.
okay, Mr. Mayor. With that, we'll move to the GIAT update.
Did you have any
Oh my bad.
They're doing a great job. Matter of fact, I saw them today, and they was doing a wonderful job cutting
Yes,
the
sir.
grass.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And we also develop a way to, even when it rains, you're going to see us cutting certain grass. We know certain areas you can cut during some rain versus other areas. So, last thing, Mr. Mayor, for the agenda item is the GIAT update. So, you've seen both of the support letters that y'all put in for Memorial and Corridor Z. Those are the raised mediums, the enhanced lights, the restriping, all those things. And the last one I sent y'all, I left it off of here, was the request for support on Ozzie Davis in the same capacity, that being to make it the same route as Albany Avenue, meaning a center lane, a center turn lane with two outside lanes. GDOT requested feedback on that. I want to say I got an acknowledgement the last time we briefed that, but I would like to send him a support letter signed by the mayor and the commission saying we're okay with that. But if we not, we rethink it. Then we need probably to talk about this at the retreat and just make sure we all still on board with this. Because they're about to start construction pretty soon, or the bypass, they want to know right now what we're willing to do. And again, just for the public, if we allow that, and it doesn't change the speed of, actually, if you drive on Albany Avenue right now, you will see that you move faster on Albany Avenue than you do Ozzie Davis, for a lot of reasons. But the big so what is, they're gonna fix all utilities underneath Ozzie Davis, and that's double-digit $1 million that we do not have to fix. So they fix that along with the bypass to give us more flexibility to put money towards other streets and other priorities. That's the big so what of that. So we can talk about it in detail at the retreat again, but some point soon I'd like to let them send in that support letter saying y'all okay with that, Mr. Mayor, and that way once they get started on construction, they can go ahead and add that to it as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Nelson.
Can we do that before the retreat? Because I know time is of the essence.
We can, Commissioner. They're aware of the retreat. I told them that.
Okay.
They're aware of the retreat, but
But I get kind of tired of kicking the can.
yes. And I'm just making sure. Look, I don't want to commit. Y'all not
At this point.
committed to it as well.
Exactly. Okay.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, if you don't have any other further question, that moves into go back. That moves into the rest of the agenda. We don't have any privilege license renewals or privilege licenses, proposed ordinances. We do have one proposed resolution, and with that, I will turn it over to the city attorney for his remarks.
The resolution is simply backing up what the purchasing director presented to surplus 85 toner cartridges to be surplus and sold on govdeals.com.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Next, Mr. Mayor, I move to my report, and you get this daily, but moving forward, we're going to start making sure we post this in my report. So again, for those watching, infrastructure, pothole repair in Zone 2, that's all potholes. They're going around checking all the streets. Fabricating street signs for Zone 1, automatic light switches for the fire department, one cruiser in Zone 3, got house demos, silent mower in Zone 4, and unfortunately, we only had one sweeper truck working today. I know that's very important with our citizens. That's one thing that we're going to look at when it's time to start purchasing vehicles with that SPLOST 2023 is getting a better sweeper truck. So, engineering, you see the dirt street pavements. So far, we'll have 3 streets done. We're looking at that design for the Waycross Middle School drainage, the area over there kept flooding. We're trying to find a better way to run that drainage so it doesn't become an issue once the school is totally built. And then as far as water and sewer department, they're just doing the hydrant maintenances across the city. And then park improvements. With the park, Mr. Mayor, just tell citizens we will be, I know there's some permits put in for those 3 parks. Right now, we'll tell citizens just plan on, if you're trying to use those 3 parks, Garlington, Elizabeth, and Bailey, that you wait probably till July 1st, to be honest with you, for any event. I know that's a long way. It seems kind of awful, but we don't want to, especially those big events, those big events, because those parks, they'll just be finishing up. I want to give them time so we don't destroy them on that first day. Make sure everybody gets the use out of it. So those big events, I have turned down some permits on that because I want to make sure, like the football field for Bailey, that those flag football teams we have, they need to get first access to that prior to everybody else. And a few other things that citizens have requested, the splash pads and all those things. We want to make sure that's available first before we have those big events. So, however, if you got questions about that, anybody, just come see. First, you go through the police chief, then you'll come see me, and we'll figure it out. We have other parks besides those 3 that can present the same fun feel Saturdays and Sundays. But these 3 parks, I want to get them totally completed, totally done. The fence might come down earlier, but again, we want to be careful about just getting anybody out there too fast out there. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that completes my report and the agenda items.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with our last call, Commissioner Nelson, and then Commissioner Bennett, since you're the mayor, first you come after me. Welcome before me.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, keep up the good work. You and your team are doing a great job. Where the dumpsters are starting today.
Yes, Commissioner. So they'll be in E.E. Moore Park today
Okay.
for the week, and then Elizabeth Park for the next week, and then Garlington Park for the next week, then Monroe Park, and then Oakland Cemetery.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
And Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, City Manager, I just want to address to the citizens that if you have anything that you cannot take to the dumpster, put it out on the side of your yard, call us, and we'll come by and pick it up. It's 5 items, correct?
Yeah, that correct, Commissioner. That's normal pickup, but for these dumpsters, like I said, we haven't had anybody call yet.
Well, no, I ride by and I
Yeah.
see where people have tires thrown in wood lines
Oh, yes.
or some extra furniture. So I'm saying they can call the number and we can come by and pick it up.
Everything but tires, Commissioner.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, everything but tires. But everything else, they schedule an appointment. We'll make sure we put that out on. Right now, we put that in the comments about that number to call. Call that number, set up appointment. Give them at least 72 hours, because if you call on a Friday, it's gonna be the next week. You know, so we'll pick everything else up. Just can't.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I had a phone call about some tires in the wood line.
Mhm.
So what should I tell them or what should you tell them? Is people coming dumping these tires,
Yeah.
and that's a big problem.
Yeah. So
Um,
we'll come. We'll do what we can do, Commissioner. I want to overpromise.
Yes, sir.
That's been a big promise. I wish we could. We're still trying to figure out a way to repurpose the tires,
yes,
because
sir.
if we could find a way to use them for something else,
Yes, sir.
it'll be a plus. We haven't figured it out yet.
Yes, sir.
But if they become a safety hazard or too much blight, we will come get them.
Yes, sir.
We just don't have any ability to. All we can do is store them.
Yes, sir.
You know. So
But other than that, everybody be safe. Kids, enjoy the rest of the week. Don't forget about Swamp Fest. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mentioning Swamp Fest, the dates for Swamp Fest start April the 4th and will end on April 5th. And along with that, we have a Spring Career Expo, and this is going to be on the 3rd, and this starts on 10 a.m. This will be at our C.C. McCrae City's Auditorium, and it will be from 10 to 2. And you can feel free to come in. All vendors, we have about 40 vendors there, and this will be done through the Waycross and the WorkSource Georgia. And if you need to contact anyone, our contact person is our Business Integration and Informations Technology Director, Mr. Patrick Simmons. His number is 912-337-6062 for any questions you may have. And with that, I want to say to families that are bereaved, and I know several families that are going through bereavement at this time, do want to send our condolences to Pastor Blair, his family, and also to Miss Angela Stanford's family. Do appreciate each person who came in tonight and was able to sit in on the time that we have together. Do want to commend our city manager for what he has been doing as far as getting things orderly and organized so that we can have a better response time. And with that in mind, I also want to remind the citizens to use your city app. You can go to that. If you have a situation, you want to take a picture of it and you want to send it by way of that app, it helps us to not only know what the situation is, but when it is dealt with in any community, whether it be District 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that information will be gotten back to not only our city manager, but our commissioners, as well as the persons who have done it. So we'll keep up those tickets. But I really appreciate each person being present tonight, and also appreciate these commissioners for what they've done. Do want to make a note concerning Commissioner Felder and Commissioner Roberts. Both are out today for reasons, one with work related and the other with medical related, but we're really appreciative of their work that they do, and just wanted to make sure you know they're not just playing hooky. So with that being said, I do want to thank Commissioner Nelson and Commissioner Bennett for being present tonight and just for each of you, be safe in our city. I do know that we are under a very eventful weather watch tonight, and some of you probably already experiencing it as I'm talking to you. But be safe as you travel in the city, and have a great evening. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Since we don't have quorum, I get to just strike the gavel. So this meeting's adjourned.